Greetings, welcome, and thank you for clicking. I'm Christian of Standing Stones Healing Company, supporting your journey with healing experiences, coaching, and encouragement for life's changes, challenges, and transitions. Thanks for joining me in this episode of Ask the Stones, where I offer spiritual guidance, advice, and encouragement for life's challenging questions. Greetings, welcome, and thank you for joining me for this episode of Ask the Stones. This episode is about stress, and it comes from Seth. Seth writes, "What do you do to be more calm and stress resilient?" Thanks for that question, Seth. I first want to say when it comes to being calm and stress resilient, that of course I am no expert on stress. I am no psychologist. I am no trained or licensed mental health counselor. And so I want to make sure to throw that out there right away. And as with all of my teachings, all of my guidance, all of my encouragement, these opinions are always my own. And there are always numerous perspectives to consider, Seth. So thank you for this question, and thank you for the opportunity to offer my thoughts and perspective on stress and being resilient to it. The first thing that I want to say about this question specifically, Seth, is that this is actually the way in which your question is worded is wonderful. And I say that because I'm not saying that stress is wonderful. I'm saying, Seth, that by asking your question in this way, how to become more stress resilient, you are acknowledging that what is really at its core is resilience and is the acknowledgement that stress is a reality. Seth, you're not asking, how do I get rid of stress? You're asking, how do I become more stress resilient? And so that is really great, Seth. So, stress is a normal part of life. Being a human being is a stressful experience. Just think of all of the stressors that we all experience on a daily basis. And then think of all of the stresses that we experience throughout all of our lives. And when you think about all those stressors, it's enough to create some stress, right? But yes, stress is a normal and natural part of life. And we are never going to completely get rid of stress because that's just inherent to being a human being. So I really appreciate this question, Seth, because it's about building those resiliency muscles, building that resilience. I do also advocate reducing stress or trying to reduce stress. Life stressors come in all shapes and forms. And so while we cannot completely eliminate stress from our lives, I'll say more about that in a second. While we can't completely eliminate stress from our lives, it can be helpful for us to reduce some of our stressors. Now, when we say, we can't completely eliminate stress from our lives, maybe actually in truth, Seth, we don't want to completely because we grow through stress. We grow through challenging experiences. And so when we experience stressors, it actually is a way for us to grow. Now, we don't always want those stressors. We don't always, we never really enjoy the stressors, right? But we are able to grow and change through them. So we may not even want to completely eliminate all stress from our lives. So it's not something that we can do, and it may not even be something that we want to do. But with all of that being said, Seth, I do have some recommendations for us on how to become more resilient to stress, because it really is a muscle. Resilience is a muscle. And the more we practice it, the better we get at it, the more resilient we become, the better we are able to bounce back when we experience stresses, and the better we're able to manage and navigate stressors. So, great question, Seth. Recommendations that I have. How do I stay calm and stress resilient? Well, just like anyone else, I am sometimes challenged with stress, and ways that I approach that and ways that I work to improve my resilience to stress. Number one is to practice it before there's a huge major stressor in your life. So to be building resilience through all of the little small stressors that you experience on a daily basis. Your coworker says something to annoy you. Okay, practice breathing. Practice working through the stress on that. And then when you have a bigger stressor, your car breaks down or someone you love passes away, you have been building those resiliency muscles, and you can call that resilience in at any time. So even practicing resilience through the small stressors, Seth, is going to help you with those larger stressors. So be building that muscle. How do you build that muscle? Well, I always recommend the breath, and I always recommend breathing. You may have heard me say this before. I will no doubt be saying this again, and I'll probably be saying this until my final breath, is that breath is so beneficial for us to bringing us into the moment, to relieving stress, to creating calm. And so I do recommend breathing. Deep in breaths, deep out breaths. Anytime you feel stress rising, Seth, start breathing. This is a wonderful way to build your stress resilience. I actually have several ways, Seth, of advising to work through stress and to build your stress muscles and to practice preventative stress resilience. So again, this idea of building our stress resilience muscles before we have major stressors, and to be working on stress reduction at all times, and to view it as something preventative. So I actually have what I call the 7-way path. And the 7-way path is a way that I've created that can help people to become more, to live lives of more awareness, meaning, and connection. And actually, when I read your question, Seth, the 7-way path immediately came to mind, because the 7-way path was created for helping us to become more spiritual and to deepen our spirituality. However, when I reflected on it, I thought, gosh, these things all help with stress reduction. At least they do for me. So again, Seth, this is for my experience in my life. And what I offer, what I practice, what I do may or may not be beneficial for you. So I offer it as an offering, and please feel free to take what benefits you and to discard the rest, or even offer it up to someone else for whom it may be a benefit. But the 7-way path starts with gratitude. Now, potentially, those of you who listen to my other Ask the Stones or teachings and encouragements know that I am a big advocate of gratitude. It is what I believe the number one foundation for a deeper, more meaningful spiritual experience. And also, it also assists with stress reduction and building stress resilience. So I'm a big believer in gratitude and practicing gratitude, and gratitude is a stress buster. As a matter of fact, all of these ways that I'm going to recommend, Seth, are backed by scientific research, case studies, and my own experiences. But gratitude, number one, practicing gratitude. And not only doing this when you feel stress, but even before you feel stress, just practicing it as a daily, lifelong practice is going to help you to become more resilient to stress, all kinds of stressors. So, practicing gratitude. I also recommend nature. Nature is a huge stress reliever, a huge stress buster. And there is so much research on the benefits of nature, the benefits physically, mentally, emotionally, and as a stress reducer. So I highly recommend getting out into nature, whatever that might look like. Of course, it's always wonderful to be able to devote time to nature. I really am very privileged where I live in proximity to a stretch of natural area that is rather secluded. And I'm able to get there. I have the privilege of being able to drive out to this place and to take a whole day and to experience that. So I do want to recognize my privilege in that. And I also want to take a moment here and recognize that, enjoying nature in that kind of state is not possible or is a real challenge for a large majority of our population, particularly those dwelling in cities, urbanites, and people without accessibility to nature. And of course, this is impacted by socioeconomic class, race, and all of those other things. That is a huge other discussion, Seth, but I do feel called to acknowledge that with my recommendation to get some nature. And that can look like many different things, whether that is going out into secluded nature and enjoying and spending time there, or cultivating a garden or houseplants, or even just watching nature videos. Actually, studies have shown that just watching nature videos is a stress reducer. So, a couple other recommendations for you, Seth. You may also consider taking a walk. I am a big proponent of walking as a stress reliever, and walking is a wonderful way to clear your head and to get yourself moving and work some things out in your life. I do recommend walking alone. I do recommend walking without distraction, so leaving behind the phone and the iPods, the music, and forgetting about texting and even putting your phone on silent. As an aside, Seth, this is actually something that I do. My phone is always on silent. So if you were to call me right now, my phone wouldn't even ring. Well, it would ring, but I wouldn't even hear it. So this is a wonderful luxury that I have. But so that means that even when my phone is with me and I'm out walking, I can't hear it. And so I am enjoying silence. So that's a real benefit. Along with that idea of silence, of course, is meditation. You know, everyone always talks about meditation as a stress reliever. Oh no, meditation. Oh, here he goes again with meditation. Oh, I'm so tired of hearing about meditation. And you very well may be. But the truth is that it really does help. A lot of our resistance to meditation has to do with this idea of I don't have time for it. So I have no time to take a break from time. Another form of resistance to meditation is this idea of sitting and doing nothing, which really is a challenge in our overtaxed culture. But not even worrying about, quote, clearing the thoughts from your head, but rather just sitting in stillness and quiet. So meditation can be helpful to build that stress resilience so that when you find yourself experiencing stress, you have already practiced going inside and going into the quiet in that still small voice inside. Rituals, I believe, are wonderful for a life practice in terms of stress reduction, in terms of cultivating meaning and connection and awareness in our lives. So I'm a big proponent of ritual as well. And so I do recommend, Seth, that you could create a ritual or a few rituals for yourself as stress relieving, stress busting rituals, so that when you feel stress coming on, you conduct your ritual with the intention of reducing your stress. So those are a few recommendations from the 7-Way Path that while they weren't created specifically as stress reducers, actually really are stress reducers. Another one of them is, believe it or not, cleaning. Cleaning is actually oftentimes a real stress reducer. Clearing clutter is a great way to do that. I know that frequently when someone experiences a great loss in their life, such as the death of a loved one, you will often see cleaning and clearing out accompanied with working through that grief. And so doing some clearing and some cleaning on a physical level can also help us do clearing and cleaning on a mental and emotional level. So I do recommend that for you as well, Seth, if that's something that resonates with you. Give all of those things a try as you build your stress resilient muscles and work to reduce stress. Now, I will also say that when it comes to this idea of reducing stress and avoiding stressors, I don't recommend avoiding stressors to the point of detriment. So let's say, for instance, that you're having a challenging situation with a loved one. Maybe there is a difficult discussion that you need to have, and that is giving you stress, as it would for really anyone. On some level, in some way, shape, or form, of course, there's a whole range. And what might stress someone else out might not be a stressor for anyone else at all. Like public speaking, for instance, apparently it's like the number one fear, even more than death. I don't know. That's often quoted. I'm not so sure if that's really true. I really believe that probably most people would rather speak in public than die if they were really forced with the choice. But for me, for instance, that is not a stressor at all. I have no problem doing public speaking. But for others, that would be a real stressor. So, of course, there's a range of stress, and some things may be slight stressors for us that for others would be very large stressors. So it's important for us to keep that in mind. But so having a difficult conversation with a loved one might not be a stressor for you at all, or it might be a very big stressor. But what I discourage from is avoiding stress to the point where you are avoiding the necessary or the important. And so something like avoiding a difficult conversation with a loved one, while maybe you might be, in your mind, avoiding stress, you are actually doing a disservice to yourself and that loved one and your relationship. So avoiding stressors is really not a substitute for not doing the difficult right things to do. So when we reduce our stressors, it's important that we're not doing that out of avoidance, and that we aren't avoiding challenging experiences and situations. The way that I like to talk about this, the metaphor that I like to use is of a car. And if you have a car or anything something else that's mechanical, and it's experiencing some kind of strange noise, and you really are just hoping that the noise goes away. Maybe you turn up the radio as you're driving in order to not hear the noise, and hope that it just goes away. And you're afraid to pop the hood and look under the hood for fear of what you might find. That kind of stress avoidance is not healthy. There are, of course, things that we can do to reduce our stressors, whether they are relationship stressors, money stressors, whatever kind of stressors we might be experiencing. There are steps that we can take to take preventative action to reduce stressors. But I do encourage you, Seth, that when you hear the clunking sound in the engine, that you don't ignore it and that you be proactive and address it. So while stress avoidance, mitigating stress can be beneficial for us, reducing stressors can be beneficial for us, we don't want to avoid addressing the stress when it's really important for our life experience and our growth and our relationships and further stress reduction for us in the future to confront. So if you avoid that clunking sound in the engine now, chances are it will just produce more stress in the future when the repair becomes even more pressing and potentially more expensive. So those are some thoughts to think about, Seth, when it comes to stress. Just a few thoughts. As I said, I am no expert on stress. I offer those ideas to you as ways to build your stress muscle and as ways to work on being calm and building stress resilience, because that is a muscle that it does take practice to build. I'm pulling a card now for you, and as I was shuffling just now, one popped out, Seth, from the Archangel deck, and it popped out here and is just laid right down on my leg. So lovely. This one is from Archangel Raphael, and it's called Angel Therapy. And Archangel Raphael says, "Give your cares and worries to us angels and allow us to take care of your burdens." Wow, that's powerful. What's interesting is that as I was shuffling the cards, I had the distinct feeling, and I thought, no, I should really mention to Seth and to all those listening that, of course, we can always ask for assistance and guidance and help with dealing with our stress and with helping with our building our stress resilient muscles. And so, as fortune would have it, thank you, Archangel Raphael, we are reminded through this card, give us your cares and worries and allow us to take your burdens. What a beautiful message from the angels. So thank you so much, archangels, for that message. Seth, I'm going to pull another card. Why not? Let's see. I am actually going to pull a tarot card from the Celtic Dragon Tarot for you, Seth. And let us see what might come up with this. I encourage you, Seth, to try multiple ways to find what works for you with your stress reduction. Aha! Here has popped out from the deck for our stress is, interestingly enough, the High Priest. And the High Priest, I'm picking up from this card, of course, is about balance. There's more to the High Priest. I think that the High Priest is also calling us right now to sit in our power and to recognize our power. So, Seth, what I'm drawing from this card right now is the encouragement to recognize that you do have power to build that stress resilience muscle, to recognize that you have so many tools at your disposal and to be using those tools. You know, everyone, I think the truth is that we really know. We know what needs to be done when we're feeling stress. We know how to work to become more stress resilient. And the trick isn't so much knowing that. I think the high priest right now is telling us that we know. We have the power, we have the ability, we have all the tools that we need. We really just need to use them and to enact them and put them into play. You know, we have the wands, we have the magic potions, we have the techniques and the tools and the tactics. We know what those are. And, you know, my few that I mentioned to you, Seth, and to all those listening are just a few out of a whole range, a whole host, an innumerable number, a whole bunch of ways that we can work to reduce stress. And we all have what works for us. And so the high priest, I think, is telling us right now, we know what those are. So just do them, just enact them, just use them. Find that balance, work to do the things that are going to feel right and beneficial to and for you. And know that really, when it comes to it, you are the expert of your own experience. You are the expert for what works for you, for building your stress resiliency and creating calm in your own life. So own that, Seth, and find those ways that work for you and do them. So, Seth, thank you so much for this great question. I send love and light and blessings to you and to all, and wish you not a stress-free life, but rather a life in which you are able to manage the changes, challenges, and transitions of life in a way that allows you to grow and learn and blossom from them. Because that's really what it's all about with managing our stress and becoming, as you ask, Seth, in that key way, resilient. So blessings to you all. Thank you and best wishes for your journey. Again, I am Christian of Standing Stones Healing Company, supporting your journey with healing experiences, coaching, and encouragement for life's changes, challenges, and transitions. Blessings, and thank you. Thanks for tuning in for this episode of Ask the Stones. If you have a question for the Stones, connect with me at standingstoneshealing.com or on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube at Standing Stones Healing. Thank you, and best wishes for your journey.